Welcome to Big Fish, everybody. It's great to be back once again, and we've got another great week for you this week with a game and a song and a story and a memory verse and some craft as well. And we hope you had a great half term, and we're really pleased that you've come back to join us. Now, as always, we're going to start off with our game. But before we get onto our game, let me tell you a little bit about what you need for the craft this week if you didn't see our craft post. What you need is one piece of card. That can be just a white piece of card, or if you've got some coloured cards, some gold or some silver would be great. But if you haven't, white card is fine. And then you need some colours or some stickers and things to decorate it. You need some scissors, and then you need either a stapler or some glue or some sellotape to be able to stick it back together. But we're going to start off with our game of animal karate. So Elisha, are you going to come and be our animal karate expert this week? Come back up here quick. Yeah, we'll show people the crown in a little bit, which is going to be our craft this week. Elisha's found our craft this week, the one I've already made. So, one sec. So, let's do a bit of a swap, shall we? And then we can show everybody what they're going to make a bit later on in Big Fish, and you can wear it whilst you're being the animal karate expert, can't you? There we go. So, there's a crown for you by there. Excellent. So, we'll see. Right. So, okay.
I like being the king.
You like being the king. Excellent. So, here we go. What we're going to do now, though, is...
I don't want to be the king.
You don't want to be the king. You want to be a builder? Okay, be the builder. Now, can you tell people what animals they can choose in animal karate? What animals can they choose between? There is a penguin, there is a crocodile, or then there's a giraffe. So, in a moment when I say animal karate, kids, you choose one of those. If Elisha, as our expert, chooses the same, you're out. Just sit down, but it won't be for long, don't worry. But if you chose something different to Elisha, then you're still in for our next round. So, you ready? You're going to stand up to do it? Or are you going to sit down to do it? Going to start up nice and high. There we go. Okay, right. So, animal karate kids, do your thing. What do they have to say? Hi-ya!
No, not the same.
Okay, so then, now choose between the giraffe, the crocodile, or the penguin, whichever one you want to choose. And then, if you've got that chosen, it looks like I'm going to be the expert this week. So, animal karate expert, do your thing. Hi-ya! And I'm going to choose, which animal shall I choose? A giraffe. I'm going to choose a giraffe. Elisha, help me there to choose. So if you had a giraffe, you're out. But if you had the crocodile or the penguin, you're still in for the next round. So here we go. You ready? Animal karate kids, do your thing. Hi-ya! So choose again between the giraffe, the crocodile, or the penguin. Choose quick. Okay. Animal karate expert, do your thing. Hi-ya! Which animal shall I choose this time, Elisha? The penguin. The penguin. So if you had a penguin that time... Penguins live at the zoo. Yeah, they do sometimes live at the zoo. If you had a penguin, you're out. You need to sit down.
And the naughty penguin gone to jail.
Oh, yeah, the naughty penguin in Wallace and Gromit went to jail. If you've ever seen Wallace and Gromit, you would understand what Elisha's talking about. But if you had the penguin that time, you're out. If you had the giraffe or the crocodile, you're into our final round and could be one of our winners this week. So, last round. Here we go. Animal karate kids, do your thing. Hi-ya! So choose carefully which one is going to be, the giraffe, the crocodile, or the penguin. So here we go. Animal karate expert, do your thing. Hi-ya! Which one are we going to choose, Elisha? The giraffe, the crocodile, or the penguin? The crocodile. The crocodile. Elisha chose the crocodile. So if you had the crocodile that time, you are out. But if you had the giraffe or the penguin, you're one of our winners. Well done, well done, well done. Yeah, you can message us to let us know you're one of our winners, and we'll give you a shout out if we remember next week. That would be fantastic. So hopefully you're nice and warmed up, ready to go, because we're going to have our song this week. And then we're going to have our story linking into our theme that has been all term about God's great family. But our song this week is going to be I'm Gonna Jump Up and Down. I love this song. We haven't done it for a little while. So up on your feet, singing as loud as you can, doing the best actions you can, and off we go.
Now I'm gonna spin right around, gonna praise your name forever. I'm gonna shout such a lot when you got not a lot? What? Be happy. I'm gonna jump up and down, gonna spin right around, gonna praise your name forever. I'm gonna shout out loud, gonna deafen the crowd, gonna send my praise to heaven. I'm gonna jump up and down, gonna spin right around, gonna praise your name forever. I'm gonna shout out loud, gonna deafen the crowd, gonna send my praise to heaven. I will run this race and I will never stop. I follow Jesus till the day I drop. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. When you've got such a lot, when you got not a lot, what? Be happy. Such a lot when you got not a lot. What? Be happy.
So our story this week is all about a lady called Esther. And as you can see, it says there, she saved the lives of millions. Isn't that amazing? One person saving so many people. But let's have a look and see what our story is all about. It actually starts with a king called King Xerxes. It's a bit of a strange name, isn't it? You don't hear that name very often nowadays, but that was his name. And he was king of a land called Persia. And he had a queen already, a queen called Queen Vashti. But the king wasn't happy with Queen Vashti at the beginning of our story. You see, he'd asked her to come to a banquet with him, and she'd said, "No, I'm not really interested. I don't want to go." Well, that wasn't what you did to a king. Even though she was the queen, she still wasn't allowed to do that. The king was so unhappy, he decided he was going to get a new queen. So, all of the beautiful single ladies in the land were invited to King Xerxes' palace. And they were going to spend a whole year getting themselves ready for the king to choose who was going to be his new queen. It seems a bit strange to us now, isn't it? But that was a normal thing for them to do back in those days. Now, one of the ladies that went to the palace was a woman called Esther. Now, she lived with her cousin called Mordecai. Now, neither of them were originally from Persia. They were both part of God's special family here on earth, the Jews. And actually, they were part of the Israelites. But they lived in Persia because they'd been taken there when they were much, much younger. And Esther had to go to the palace. And as I said, she was there for a year, going through lots of different beauty treatments and trying on new clothes and that kind of thing, getting ready for the end of the year when King Xerxes was going to choose who, out of all the women that had been brought to his palace, was going to be his new queen. And so, at the end of the year, everyone was brought before King Xerxes, and he decided that the most beautiful woman out of all of them was actually Esther. He was so happy with Esther, he decided that she was going to be his new queen. Wow. From where she lived before with her cousin to suddenly now living in the palace and being the queen, this was a major change for Esther. But she knew that God had a plan behind it, and she just had to trust God and see what that was going to be. Well, a little while later, her cousin Mordecai was on duty at the king's gate, and whilst he was there, he heard two people talking about how they were planning to plot to kill the king. Mordecai was really worried. He thought, I need to tell Esther. I need to get a message to her. So he got a message to Esther and said, Esther, tell the king what is going to happen, or otherwise the king is going to be killed. Esther did just that. She got a message to the king. The king's life was saved, and Mordecai was a hero. Well, time passed on, and one of the other king's officials got promoted, a guy called Haman, and he was second in command to the king himself. And all of the king's officials were meant to bow down to Haman. But when Haman wandered by, most of them bowed down. But as you can see, Mordecai didn't. Because you see, Mordecai trusted and followed the one true God. And he knew that no one should bow down to anyone apart from to God himself. And so he refused to bow down to Haman. And this made Haman very, very angry. He really hated that Mordecai wouldn't bow down to him. And so he decided to do something about it. Now, Haman knew that Mordecai was a Jew, and that was why he wasn't bowing down. So actually, he got the king to pass a new law. And this law said that on the 13th day of the 12th month, the new law states, you must get rid of every Jew across the kingdom, man, woman, and child. You may also keep all of their possessions for yourself. It was going to be awful. All of God's people in Persia were going to be killed. All because Haman didn't like that Mordecai wouldn't bow down. Now, the king passed the law because, you see, he didn't know that Mordecai was a Jew. And he didn't know that Esther was a Jew. He didn't know that these things were going to happen. Well, when Mordecai heard about the new law, he was really, really upset. He tore his clothes, which we saw last week with Josiah, didn't we? That was what people used to do back in those days when they were really, really upset. Mordecai thought, I'm sure that this is why God has made Esther queen. That it is for just a time like this that she will be able to save everybody. And so Mordecai was really, really sad. And Esther found out that he was really sad. So she sent messengers to him to find out what was going on. He explained to her all about the new law and said to her, I think that you need to go before the king and tell him to change the law to protect our people. Well, Esther was really scared. You see, even though she was the queen, she didn't necessarily get to see the king that often. She was only able to see the king when the king invited her to come in. And actually, if she went before the king when she hadn't been asked, and he didn't raise his gold scepter, then actually she would be killed. And she said, well, the king hasn't asked for me for more than a month. What am I going to do? But Esther realized that actually, even though it was risking her own life, she needed to go before the king to try and save God's special family here on earth. And the Bible tells us that there is no greater love that someone can show than to give their life for their friends. And actually, Esther was willing to do that, wasn't she? She was prepared to risk her life to save God's family here on earth. But even more amazing than that is that God, as Jesus, didn't just risk his life, but actually gave his life so that anyone who puts their trust in him could be saved. Just like Esther was hoping to save all of God's family here on earth, Jesus came not hoping to do it, but knowing that what he did on that cross would save everybody who put their trust in him. Well, Queen Esther went before the king. And she was worried. If he didn't raise his gold scepter, then she would be killed there and then. But the king looked up. He saw his beautiful queen and he raised the scepter and said, Esther, my wonderful, beautiful queen. It's been so long since I've seen you. Please come in. What can I do for you? And Esther said, King, I want to make a special meal for you, a special banquet for you and for Haman. Seems strange, didn't it? Why didn't she just say straight about the law? But you see, Esther thought this would be the best thing to do. The king said, oh wow, I get a visit from you, my beautiful queen, and you want to cook me an amazing meal. Of course, yes, I'll tell Haman to come, put his best clothes on, and come tonight. Well, that's just what happened. A beautiful meal was prepared. Haman came and the king was there. And Haman was so happy because he thought, oh wow, the queen really likes me. This is really special to be at a meal with a king and the queen. This is amazing and incredible. Well, as the meal was going on, the king turned to Esther and said, Esther, tell me, what is wrong? What do you want to tell me? Esther said, King, I don't feel it's right to tell you just yet. I know. Why don't you and Haman come back again tomorrow? I'll prepare another beautiful banquet and you can have another meal with me. Sure, said the king. That sounds like a good idea. Haman thought, this is amazing. 2 meals with the king and queen. I must be really special. The king really loves me and the queen thinks I'm amazing as well. But as he was leaving the palace, he walked past some of the king's officials and they all bowed down. Well, all apart from Mordecai. And Haman again remembered just how much he hated Mordecai and how he couldn't stand him. And even though he'd got the king to pass this new law that soon all the Jews would be killed, he thought, I need to get rid of Mordecai. And he decided that he was going to go the next day to the king, that he was sure the king was pleased with him because of all these meals. He was going to ask the king to have Mordecai killed. Well, that night, King Xerxes couldn't get to sleep. He was really struggling, tossing and turning. In the end, he said to one of his officials, hey, why don't you bring me the book of the history of my reign? You see, they used to write down all the things that happened during the king's reign so that he could actually remember and find out about it. He said, bring that to me and let's read through it, and hopefully it'll put me to sleep, but hopefully I might remember some things as well. Well, the officials started to read, and they came to the part where Mordecai saved the king's life. And the king thought, oh, Mordecai saved my life, but actually I haven't done anything to reward him and say how happy I was that he did this for me. Oh, I need to have a think. What would be a good thing to do for someone that had saved my life? Well, the king wasn't sure. He was still sort of thinking and pondering. He thought, I'll work it out the next day. I'll ask some people, and I'm sure someone will give me a good idea of what to do. Well, the next day, Haman was coming to the king, going to ask the king to have Mordecai killed. But before he had a chance, the king said, Haman, you might be the good guy to answer this. What should I do to honor a man who truly pleases me? Well, Haman thought, not just meals, but now the king wants to honor me as well. Oh, this is going to be amazing and incredible. Because he thought it was all about him, Haman said, I think, king, that you should get out one of your royal robes, place it on the person, get out one of your own horses, and one of your officials should parade them through the streets, shouting to everybody, this is what the king does to those with which he is pleased. He thought, this is going to be amazing. I'm going to be paraded through the street. Everybody's going to know just how pleased the king is with me. And that's when the king told him that this is what he wanted to do for Mordecai. Haman thought, Mordecai? I hate Mordecai. I don't like this at all. And you know what made it even worse is the official that the king chose to parade Mordecai through the streets was actually Haman. Haman was humiliated. He hated Mordecai, and now he was having to lead him through the streets telling everybody how pleased the king was with Mordecai. Well, Haman was really unhappy, but he thought, well, at least I've got this meal tonight with the king and queen. That will be great. And so he went to the palace, and again, Esther had sorted out a beautiful banquet for the king and for him. He was so happy. But then partway through the meal, the king said, well, Esther, beautiful, wonderful Esther, please tell me, what is it you really want? And she said, King, someone is trying to kill me and all of my family, all of God's family here on earth, the Israelites. Well, who could it be, said the king. I'm outraged that someone would try to kill you and all of your people. It's Haman, Esther replied. The king was furious. I'm sure that there would almost have been steam coming out of his ears. He was so angry. He stormed out of the hall as quick as he could. Haman was really worried because he knew that now the king was probably going to have him killed. He grabbed hold of Esther and was begging her, please, Esther, please speak to the king. Please beg for my life. I didn't realize that you were one of the Jews. I didn't realize that it was going to mean that you would be killed as well. The king came back in. He saw Haman with his hands all over Esther, and he was even more angry than he'd been before. And the king ordered that Haman be taken away and killed, and he called for Mordecai to be brought in because he realized that actually Mordecai was the kind of guy that he wanted to be his second in command. But Esther said to the king, she said, King, the law is still out there saying that all of the Jews are going to be killed on this day. King, please change the law. The king said, well, I can't change the law. I don't know what to do. And then him and Esther and Mordecai spoke, and they came up with a plan. They passed another law, and they sent it out to all the regions. And it said this, the new law states all of the Jews have the right to assemble, which means to come together and to protect themselves from their enemies. And they are able to keep all the possessions of their enemies. It was like the same law again. And hopefully they hoped that it was going to just mean that no one was going to get hurt and everything was going to be okay. And after that, the king decided to promote Mordecai. Mordecai was promoted to being prime minister, the role that Haman used to have. He was second only to King Xerxes himself. And all of the Israelites throughout the land were saved because Esther was willing to risk her life for her people. And as we said, she risked her life for her people, but she didn't actually have to give up her life. But actually, God himself saved even more people by coming as Jesus and giving his life so that anyone who turns and puts their trust in him can be forgiven of all the things they've done that are wrong, become part of his family, and one day get to be with him forever in heaven. Esther was used by God to save his family here on earth, but God himself came as Jesus to actually allow anybody who puts their trust in him to become part of his family forevermore, which I think is the most amazing and incredible thing ever. Well, as you know, now is the time in Big Fish for us to pray. So, you know, this is the way we do it, don't we? We put our hands on our shoulders like this. When I say 1, you put your arms out like that. When I say 2, cross your arms like this. When I say 3, close your eyes, bow your head, and we're going to pray. And it's good to be quiet because it's good to listen to what God might be saying to us as well. And then I'll say amen, and I'll say 4, and everyone's sat up nice and straight, ready for the next bit of Big Fish. So, you ready? Hands on shoulders, ready to go. Here we go. Sorry, just a bit of a cough. 1. Oh, you need to be quicker than that. Everyone needs to be as quick as they can possibly be. You ready? Here we go. Everyone ready? 1. That was good. 2, 3. God, I thank you for Queen Esther. I thank you how you used her to save all of your people here on earth. But Lord, even more, we thank you that you came not just to risk your life, but to give your life so that anyone who puts their trust in you could become part of your family and be with you forevermore. God, I pray that you help us to understand just what that means and help us to understand and realize how we need to put our trust in you as well. I pray we have a great week and you bring us all back safely again to Big Fish next week. Amen. 4, sat up nice and straight, ready to go. Because now we're going to go across and have a look at what our craft is going to be this week and what our memory verse is as well. So let's go and have a look. Well, I hope you enjoyed that story about Queen Esther and how she risked her life to save all of God's family in Persia. But even more important, how Jesus didn't just risk his life, but gave his life so that we could all be saved by putting our trust in him. Well, right now we're going to be doing our craft in a moment, but before that, we're going to have a look at our memory verse for this week. So here it is, and it says this: trust in the Lord with all your heart. Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5. And that's what Esther did, didn't she? She didn't know whether the king was going to raise his scepter or not, but she trusted in God that he'd put her there for a reason, and it was all going to be okay. So let me say it again. Here it is. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5. And so, as Elisha showed you a little bit earlier, what we're going to be doing for our craft today is we're going to be making a crown. So that could be Queen Esther's crown, or if you prefer, it could be King Xerxes' crown, whatever you would prefer it to be. We're going to make a crown, a little crown for you to be able to wear, to remember how Esther risked her life to save God's people here on earth. So, what we're going to do is we're going to get our piece of card, and it's going to be very simple what we're going to do. What you need to do first of all is we're going to fold the card, but we're not going to fold it with big creases. We're just going to fold it very gently just to give us some guides as to how we're going to do things. So what you need to do is just fold it over gently and just sort of press it down, but don't press it down too tight. And then fold it over another time so you've got a nice sort of small kind of tube there. And again, just similar thing, just press it so that you've got a bit of a guide, but not a proper fold. Be careful, Elisha. Right, now what you need to do is we're going to do the same thing the other way. So if you fold it over the other way, along the long edge, so just a little crease there, and the same thing again there, because that's going to help us just to get our the tops of our crown all about the same in that kind of thing. So I don't know how well you can see that on the camera there, but you can sort of see the pages sort of folded up a bit, but we've just got those guidelines where we've sort of folded. So with your pencil then, we're going to draw the shape of our crown, and we're going to keep it nice and simple, as like the one that Elisha was wearing earlier. It's just going to have the sort of triangular kind of ridges at the top like that. Triangles, yeah. So what you need to do then is from the bottom fold line, you need to go up to the top fold line where the next one is across. So hopefully you can see this on the camera by there. We're going to go from there. And now if you've got a ruler or something, you could use that as a straight edge, but I'm just going to do it freehand from the one fold by there, coming up across the middle fold up to that one at the top. And then I'm going to do the same thing down to the one in the middle. So just up like that. But then it just means that we've got sort of even kinds of triangles. So again, just, there we go, just up like that. But there, going from one end folded bits to the other folded bits, up like that, sort of freehand. Yeah. So now that you've got your crown, you can cut it out. So grab your scissors, or if you need a grown-up to help you with that, just get them to cut out along the lines by here.
Mine, I get those back. And I steal it fire.
So, go.
There's a mine. There's a mine.
I know you like using these scissors, but Daddy needs them as well, okay? To show everybody how to make a crown for the craft.
I only have one. I have
Right.
one. And I have that one.
So,
No.
am I going to be able to borrow your head in a minute to measure out our crown? Would that be okay?
And cut the craft with pliers.
Right, there you go. So hopefully you should have two bits that look a bit like that by there that are going to make up your crown. So what we need to do is just sort of come by here, and we're just sort of going to test how far round our crown will go. So Elisha, we're going to use your head, because your head is going to be more like other people's heads that are going to be making these crowns, rather than mine, which is much, much bigger. So we'll come like that, and then we can sort of just test by there how much we're going to sort of do. So, okay, fine. So that's fine. So for Elisha, it works quite well, because it means I think I can do this by here, where I can overlap these so that they match the pattern. And so we're going to do that by there, first of all, to match up our pattern of things by there. And I'm going to do it so that the little and the shorter bit is on the front edge, on the outside edge of where we're going to be with things. So I'm going to use a stapler to attach mine together. You might prefer to use your grown-ups might prefer to use glue or sellotape or that kind of thing. But whatever you use, as long as it stays together, that's fine. Now, if I'm using a stapler, I'm going to put two staples down the bottom by here. And then I'm just going to put, mine slipped offline a bit there, but never mind, I'll try and see if I can correct it up the top by here. I'm just going to put one up the top as well, just to try and keep it all together nice and neatly. This stapler isn't the best, so I was struggling a little bit to get it in the right place. Now, I say if you've got coloured card, you don't need to worry about this bit, but if you've got white card like me, you might want to take a crayon or a pencil and colour it in. So I'm going to colour it in yellow, because I think that would be a good colour for the crown. So just do this nice and quick. As I say, you can take longer over yours than me, and that kind of thing there, but sort of see, so we just colour it in, all in yellow, to get our sort of colour for our crown there. And what we're going to do, we're going to be decorating our crown with some jewels and that kind of thing. So if you've got some stickers or that kind of thing, you can stick them on. I don't have any stickers, I've just got colours by here today to do mine, sort of thing. So there we go. Go X in there. Hopefully you can sort of see this. I know the yellow doesn't necessarily show up the best on the camera, but hopefully you can see that it's changing colour a bit. And we're getting it nice and yellow. You don't need that one, thank you. Careful with those scissors. That's your microphone, isn't it?
What's this?
It's your microphone.
My microphone?
Yep. So once you've coloured all of that in by there, what we're going to do is actually we're going to write our memory verse on there so that we can remember it. So this is what it says, isn't it? Trust in the Lord with all your heart. So I'm going to write that across the bottom by here along. So I'm not going to do it right at the bottom, because otherwise I'm going to hit my staples when I get across this. I'm going to make sure I'm above my staples, but still in this section, this band that runs around the bottom, okay? So there we go. So I'll just come in a little bit just in case I need to overlap slightly when we attach it back together. So write it there. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. And I'm going to write underneath by there, because I'm avoiding the staples then, Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5. Now, they said if you've got stickers, you can stick them on to decorate and that kind of thing. I'm just going to draw a couple of jewels on mine by here. So I have a bit of a sort of diamond kind of shape in the orange by there. And let me see, what else should we sort of have? We'll have a bit more of a pointed kind of star shape by here. This one. We're going to have a circular one by here, I think. Nice big circular kind of jewel there. And then, let me see, I'm going to have a bunch of blue sort of jewels all around the bottom of mine. So I'm just going to draw these sort of by here. You see, I'm just doing mine quick, but you can take more care over yours, design how you want to do it, that kind of thing and stuff. There we go. Let's say it's a nice simple one this week, but just having that crown that we can have hanging around. You can perhaps use it to pretend to be Esther or to be King Xerxes or that kind of thing, but it just helps you to remember about the story. So now I need to borrow Elisha's head. Can you come by here, pal? Come across a bit closer to me. I need to use this to do it. So again, a stapler or some glue or some sellotape, whatever you prefer to use. One sec, pal. I just got to make sure I've got measured how big your head is by here. Just by there. Okay, so there's not much of an overlap on Elisha's one, but that's fine. Oh, sorry? Look at how I'm attaching it back together to make it a crown for you. So then just, as I say, staple along the join by there. Hopefully, as I say, that should be big enough. As I say, we overlapped quite a bit on Elisha's, so if your head's a little bit bigger than Elisha's, just make sure you didn't overlap so much the first time. That's why we measured it. And then you put it on your head and you have your crown. Are you King Elisha or are you going to be King Xerxes? No. Okay. But you're wearing your crown. So hopefully you've got your crown as well, which will remind you about the story, but also remind you about the memory verse that we've written on there. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5. And that's an important thing for us to remember, isn't it? That we need to trust God completely. Actually, and if we put our trust in Jesus, he says we can become part of God's great family here on earth and one day be with him forever in heaven. Well, I hope you enjoyed Big Fish this week. As I say, now that half term's over, we're back to a normal week of things. So tomorrow the worksheet will be going up, but it's also in the description of the video below here, so that you can download that worksheet, print it out, and help you to remember things. And the verse is always on the worksheets as well to help you to remember it. And then on Saturday, I'll post up where you can find the story in the Bible, so you could go and read that with your grown-ups as well to find out just what the Bible says all about the story. Sunday will be our story recap, when there'll be a couple of questions afterwards when you watch it again, just to make you think a little bit more about the story. Monday, Humphrey will be back with our memory verse recap. Then Tuesday, there'll be a Bible story from one of us or one of our friends. Luke's still away at the moment, isn't he, along with Mummy, but Humphrey is about. Then on and Tuesday will also be our craft post going up.
And Humphrey. Luke needs his best friend called Humphrey.
Luke needs his best friend called Humphrey, yeah, that's right. To come as well, yeah, okay. And then on Wednesday, we'll have a cartoon version of this story going up that you can watch just to help you remember this week's story. And then Thursday, it's Big Fish once again. So we hope you've had a good week. We hope you've enjoyed this week. And we look forward to seeing you in Big Fish next week. You're going to say goodbye, Elisha?
Bye.
Bye. See you next week.
Bye.